Today, I am joined by Laura White, and Laura has become a really good friend of mine in the last year.
Yeah.
We basically met through Nicola Bird's A Little Piece of Mind, and we trained together as three principles practitioners. Well, we finished what, 9, 10 months ago, I guess.
Yeah, God, wow. And
Yeah.
a weird year it's been.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we kind of graduated, I guess, and then the pandemic came, didn't it? So
Yeah.
that's been an interesting experience. But I really wanted to invite Laura to come and share some of her story with us. Um, I won't say too much because I'll leave it up to Laura to tell us more about her experience. But hopefully, there'll be something in there that will bring hope to someone who's perhaps experiencing the same things that you have experienced or continue to experience, but see in a kind of different way now, I guess. So I'll hand over to Laura.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And yeah, likewise, it's been wonderful year knowing you. And this is such a good thing that you're doing, Vicky. Like, I just love the um, title, Hopeful Conversations. I think it's something that um, yeah, it's very timely, especially where we are right now. And I love that you're focusing around health. And when you asked me what would resonate for me talking about this, there are, at first I thought, well, I can talk about my anxiety, my agoraphobia, and all of that. But I mean, they're kind of like symptoms of, yeah, sort of the that kind of all is all packaged into one, really. So I think um, I'll talk about my infertility, so my journey with that, um, where it's been an incredibly hard, but also not rewarding. But it's been a journey where it has led me to where I am now, and what I see about that is completely different. So um, so I'm 42 now, and I had my first miscarriage when I was 34. Got pregnant really quickly, actually, when we were
Right.
trying. Probably within about 2 months. Thought, brilliant, this is it. Yeah. So had a pretty late miscarriage, and then it got diagnosed. I had endometriosis, which it was so obvious that I had it. And I'd been into hospital with period pains before, like that the doctors had never got it diagnosed, even though I had laparoscopy. Had a lot of anger around that for so long, like the incompetence of people not to be able to to identify that. So then I had an operation to remove that, and then I had a couple of rounds of IVF and they failed. And then I got pregnant naturally when I was 37 and had another miscarriage, unfortunately. And then I have had about 5 rounds of IVF since, and also a failed relationship because it's an incredible strain that it puts on a relationship. And when you as a couple, and I don't know if anyone listening to this might resonate, it's going through IVF and infertility and numerous miscarriages. It puts a lot of strain on two people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that when that broke down, I then went into quite a deep depression. Um, and I'd been having anxiety throughout this whole journey of infertility, but my panic attacks had actually started before, probably when I was about 31, 32.
Right.
When I was presenting, my job's all sales, presenting in front of people. And I remember having a panic attack in front of a room of people, about 40 people, and just um, looking out at everyone. And I was talking and just being very aware that everyone was looking at me. And then suddenly having this whoosh of adrenaline and anxiety, and my sweaty palms, and just my heart was beating really fast, and my mind just went completely blank. Um, and I didn't, if anyone had asked me what's your name at that point, I wouldn't have known, it was, and I kept on having these episodes after that. And that I started to think it was because it was me presenting, or it was the job I was in. And then it was the fact that, I was going through IVF, and it was the health issues. And then, it got to a point quite badly up until last year, actually. Yeah, until I came across the understanding that we both have discovered. I was so anxious that I wasn't leaving the house. And that was probably for about a good 6 months. I mean, I lost my job. I was out of work for 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
And I just, saw, I couldn't see a way out of it. It was like, I really saw that, if we saw look at it from the infertility lens, that not having children meant that I was incomplete. There was something wrong with me. I was a disappointment. No man would want me. And that life for me, my future looked bleak, because I can't say that it's the stories in my head that were telling me that, but also there's the society's expectations of what women we should be like as women, right? Yeah, I mean, I used to remember my mum saying to me when I used to argue with her, "You just wait until you have children." All of this, where it's a given that, it's assumed that you will. You never think that it's not going to happen. I mean, some people don't want children by choice, right? But when you do want it, you never think that that's going to be an issue, because you're never told. You're just led to believe that that is the way that you are, your role is as a woman.
Yeah.
So that was just buying into that. And I mean, I was in a terrible way, really. And then I came across this understanding, and I'd been seeking, right? Like, I'd done everything. I'd done like the CBT, tried meditation, acupuncture, quite a lot of acupuncture, like hypnotherapy, NLP. Tried to train as a coach, like an NLP coach, and none of it really did much. Like, it was temporary relief, really. And then I came across this understanding, and what was different, what I heard firstly, was that I didn't have to take my thinking seriously, and that I'd never really thought about that. I thought, well, my thoughts is all I've got, and of course they're true, because I can look at all this evidence of what's happened to me in the past to support the fact that there's something wrong with me. Like, there's my body doesn't work the way most women's bodies does, and therefore I'm not going to have a happy family, and therefore I won't be happy. And I saw that so clearly. And then someone said is like, you don't have to take your thinking seriously. It was like, what do you mean I don't have to take it seriously? And that little insight was like a little chink of light that I don't know, that impossibility of, well, if I don't have to take it seriously, what is that about? Like, what is thought? And then this whole exploration of what thought was. And then I started to look at it. I was like, well, hang on a minute. Like, if there are people in the world that are going through what I'm going through, or don't have children, and that's by choice, there's different experiences of the same thing, right? Like, there's people who have children and probably they wish they didn't. There's people that don't have children by choice, and they really, they love it. They love life. They're out there loving and having a fulfilling life. And then there's people that have going through infertility, and it's the worst thing in the world, and like me. And then there's people that are going through infertility and seeing that it's not on them. I met a few people that throughout this whole journey, I guess, you were going through similar things as me, because you kind of seek out groups and things. And there were people that were like, well, I don't know I mean, I call it mind consciousness. There's something that's bigger than us. It's really running the show. And a lot of people call it God or whatever. Like but it's not on us. We're not in control of that. So that got me curious, because I was like, I'm just making this so personal about me, where really when I looked at it from a universal perspective, I was like, well, it can't be, because it would be the truth if everybody thought that way. And so that got me thinking, well, if it's not truth, then I'm quite capable of making up another story about it, or or looking at it in a different way. And from there, it just started to expand my horizon, my view of this situation, and going from like, and not to say that these thoughts don't arise, because they do, but it's just that I don't take them so seriously. It's like, there it is again. And it's the feeling that comes with those types of thoughts, the anxiety, the depression, to be honest with you, the overwhelm. That really is my indicator to be like, well, why would I take anything like that when I'm clearly in insecure thinking right now? And so of course my view of the world is going to be limited. Whereas the more I looked at how the mind works and what thought is, it created an expansion where I could see infinite possibilities, and it's from there I was like, well, maybe I'll have kids in the future, but it doesn't necessarily have to be biologically mine. Or maybe I won't have kids and I'll still have a very, very happy, fulfilling life. There's just so much that it doesn't have to be one way. And yet I think so often we get tunnel vision of what things should be like in life. My cat isn't here, so sorry if you hear her meowing.
No, that's really funny, because my dog's snoring, and I was thinking, I wonder if people can hear my dog snoring.
She's being a little terror at the moment. But anyway.
It
Yeah.
is just, it's just amazing listening to you talk about it, because the contrast, the contrast between, when you were talking about the, miscarriages, the infertility, the IVF, and like there's so much tightness and constriction, and then hearing you talk about, realizing that all of those stories that we create, all of those thoughts that we have that we think are fixed, and they're not fixed at all. The openness and the possibility and the ease, the feeling of that came through as you were talking. It's like the more we can notice those beliefs that we have, I guess. I mean, like, it was amazing hearing you talk about how the sort of expectation of life is, almost, as small children, we're kind of, the language that's used around us leads us to believe that we'll be a mother one day. That there's no, as you say, there's no conversation, there's no talk of anything different. It's like, you'll grow up, you'll find a perfect man, and the fairy tales and everything, like, that we read to our children are all paint the same picture of meeting your perfect partner and having children. And it's kind of, there's, there's starting to be a different narrative, I guess, but that's still the very predominant narrative.
Yeah.
But to see that the impact of that, then when you can't have children, no wonder you felt so awful and so hopeless and so useless almost as a female, because you couldn't do that follow that path or whatever. But to see that's not true, it's just a set of beliefs, a set of conditioning that has been put upon us. Like, that's so huge to see.
Massive.
There's so many other paths. There's not like, there's never one fixed path. It might look like there is one fixed way, but there never is. That's just not true.
No. It's an illusion. It's a total illusion. And and it doesn't look like that. I get it, because I've been in the horror movie of it, and it's the feelings that cement it to what we perceive as reality.
Yeah.
And it's because, how can it not be true when I'm grieving, or I'm, feeling so useless? Because in that state, the personal mind, of course, scrambles to find evidence and support the story that you're telling yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it was like, it said that we process 11 million pieces of information in a second, but we notice 50. We notice 50. And like, the thing is, it's like that those 50 pieces of information are normally quite often the same pieces, because we're conditioned and it's learned. And if you can imagine in an expansive, I don't know, on a conveyor belt, 11 million pieces of information in a second, and
Wow.
we're just picking out the 50
Yeah.
that we are conditioned to pick out because they look familiar,
Yeah.
because we know them. And then, if you can imagine, the more you get into insecure thought, insecure thinking, that probably 50 goes down to 25,
Yeah.
10,
Same.
whatever.
Yeah.
You can't see anything other than what the thoughts are telling you in your head, and that's fine. But what is interesting to notice, which I noticed, was that I didn't live like that 24/7. Like, I came into my own health. I had my own mental health, my own peace of mind. It was always there. It always is. And so and I didn't have eyes for it until I started learning about it, I guess. But I didn't sit in that. Like, I'd have days I'd be fine, and there was no infertility. It
Yeah.
didn't exist,
Yeah.
because I wasn't focusing on it, I wasn't thinking about it. I was just having a nice day, connecting with a friend, just being with my family, whatever it might be. And then it would be like a trigger when I'm around my family, or not, like I perceive it as I can't be with my brothers because they've all got kids and I'm the odd one out, and I feel like I'm a failure. And so I'd start distancing myself from my family, and it's like, but knowing that our default is health, right? Our default is peace of mind. It's not down here in the dungeons of like noticing the 10 bits of information per second. It's expansive.
Yeah.
And that we rise up to that like a helium balloon. Like, it's like we just automatically do it without us having to do anything. That I started to get curious about that. I was like, well, what is it about that? Like, I'm not doing anything. It's just that I have more clarity of mind at certain parts of the day, but it's not, despite my best efforts, like, it's not I'm doing anything, or I'm not meditating, or I'm not doing any, like, I wasn't doing any counseling. It was just more noticing that health was already there, which created in us a space which invited more fresh thinking and perspective, more bits of information per second that I could see that were different. That was like, oh my God, my world actually, when I look back over the last 2 months or 3 months since looking in this direction, looks completely different. Like, and yet nothing has changed. Like, I've still not got a child. It's still, at that point, I didn't have a relationship. Nothing had changed, but everything had changed. And I started to, when I told you I had agoraphobia, like I just started to leave the house, and it was so uneventful. It was like, I could always go to the corner shop, but I just ended up saying yes to going out with friends, and just ended up in a pub. And I was like, oh, I'm in a pub. Right. Okay. There's none of this like feel the fear and do it. It was like, it just didn't have the thinking around it that I used to, because there was more space that was created for other thoughts to be noticed.
Yeah.
To come in.
So, I'm going to jump in here because I know there's going to be people watching this and they're going to be like, yeah, but how do you notice some of those other 11 million bits of information if you're fixed on the 25? Like, you're talking about knowing that there's that you have health. But to somebody who knows nothing about what we're talking about, how, like, they're going to be screaming like, how do you do that? So I'm just,
I know it's the question that I had too, because like you start to learn something about how the mind works and the system works, and one of the first things that we do, because we're taught right at school to know how to do things, and the answers are all lie in the intellect, which I call the computer, right? The busy thinking and the stored information. Like if we can just figure out the strategy and then apply it to my problem, and then it'll get me out of where I need to be. But I like what was really helpful for me to see is that firstly, I was already residing in that health whilst I was in the midst of all of the depression, anxiety. It wasn't 24/7. Even if it was 5 minutes a week, I had peace of mind, and I didn't do anything. It was just there, right? And I think like it's naturally, it's innate in us, where our default is that. And so we don't need to do anything. But funnily enough, the more we look at the direction and notice that it's there already, it invites more of it in. So there's not a doing other than possibly looking in this direction, with an open mind, in a way that is not trying to intellectualize it, because I've done that too. And I know it's easy to do, and it's easy to say don't do it, but it comes with a feeling, right? That feeling when you're in your own health. And it's very easy. Like I went for a walk the other day, and I was in a busy mind, and there was something at work, and I came back from that walk and I felt so much better. And I was really enamored by the trees. I love trees and being out in nature. And my personal ego mind went, yeah, well, of course you're better because you went for a walk and you were in nature. And it's nothing to do with that. Like I could be sat here at my desk and still be in peace of mind. So it's nothing outside of us, right? It's just it's the noticing that actually we do live in an inside out world. It's not the other way around. And so whatever we create from moment to moment is through thought, and it's brought to light through consciousness. And there's something that's running the show, which is bigger than this computer up here. This computer can't function unless it has a power, right? And that is electricity, if you want to call it. Like it's mind, it's universal, it's expansive. And it's always been there, right? Like, and it's getting curious about that, which funnily enough invites more of it. And yeah, so it's you're doing, if people are watching this, it's like you don't need to do anything, you're doing enough by just listening and watching, and hopefully getting into a feeling, and then your wisdom will direct you in the next thing to do. There's a difference between the busy thinking and like the knowing of what step to take next.
It's so beautiful just even listening to you, because I'm in that feeling. It's like it's not something we can explain, that that word health or peace of mind or whatever you want to call it. It's not, you can't explain it in words. But in listening to you, and hopefully some of the people that are listening to this in their homes will be getting that feeling too, of just calmness, of their heads just quietening down a little bit.
Yeah.
And as you say, in that quietened down space, there's room for any of those other possibilities to come in. Because rather than being, staring at those 10 things that we think are fixed,
yeah,
if we're no longer looking at them, we are open to any other thing coming in, any other possibility, any other story, anything. It's just Yeah, that's
That's
space of,
exactly it. It's getting curious, questioning things. Is that true? Really? Like, what is it about the fact that our default is clarity? And if we think about it as a helium balloon, like we put the sandbags of thought down to bring it down, but its natural tendency is to bubble back up. And always, 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 always. And there might be a lot of sandbags on there, but they pop off at certain times and we don't know how it's done or when. But I do know that getting curious about what that is and what is like that, yeah. Like that wisdom, that innate health, that real-time intelligence response mechanism that we all have only now, right? It's not in the future. It's not thinking about it in the future. It's now. It's there always, and an appreciation and seeing it more and more and more. It's like gathering little. It's like gathering little treasure, like pieces of treasure, and to put in your chest, because it's just wonderful. Because then you've got this huge treasure chest of evidence of your health that you didn't have to go and seek or do anything. It's just natural. It's just the nature of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I'm working with kids, I always like to, give them the analogy of, okay, so, when you fall over,
Mm.
what happens when you go to fall over? And they'll say, my hands will come out to catch,
Mm.
to stop, to break the fall. And it's like, yeah, but did you do that? Did you think about that? Did you have to do anything for that to happen? It's like, no, because there's this
Yeah.
greater intelligence in play that's always protecting us, that
Yeah.
will do that, will guide us. Same as in a, in an emergency situation, we know what to do. I mean, who's ever been in an emergency situation and not known what to do? It's like something takes us over
Yeah. Yeah.
and directs us.
Yeah. I love that.
And
It's
as
so,
you say,
yeah.
it's
Sorry.
like the more we notice that, the more that we notice those things that just
Yeah.
happen, as you say, we can collect them up as evidence that there is this greater thing at play, that it's not how we think it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it really, isn't it? Like I'm sure like anyone listening might be able to think about when something might have happened, or maybe and they've known what to do in the moment. I don't know, maybe it's like a car crash and something's come over them and they've known instinctively to pull in, or do something in a way like that's not, oh, okay, I need to now do. It's not in the busy thinking, it's not in the intellect, it's something else. It's that which is helping heal our bodies, right? Like when we've got a cut, like we don't think about how to heal that. It's just a natural thing that happens. And so, yeah, getting curious about that is wonderful. And I think the more I get curious about that, the more I realize also is that there are things I don't want in life. Like I didn't want to not have this experience. But then I realized there's things I needed, right? In order for me, and I did in a way like that was hard for me to see. I was like, well, why did I need to be infertile? Like,
Yeah.
but actually what I can see now about life, I would never have seen if it hadn't been for that. And of course, my ego and my personal mind goes, well, you could have, there could have been better ways to get to this understanding or see things. But from that, I'm now speaking to people about infertility. I'm now helping other people. And, it's brought a great peace to my life. And whatever happens, I know I'm going to be okay. Because all we are is peace and love and wisdom and innate health. And then we have this amazing illusion, this power of thought to take us away from that. And it's part of being a human being. So it's not like I live in this blissful feeling all the time. Of course not. Like, if you think about a continuum, like there's peace of mind up here, and then there's insecure thought. Like, I mean, it's insecure thought, often, but it's just it's kind of it's more with an awareness of what's happening. And so that means the natural flow of thought can flow through so much quicker than it used to be able to, where I can see, like, oh gosh, these like 40, 50 bits of information, and they're all really, really, really dark and horrible. And then they can just go, and then it's like, oh, right, okay, well, now I can see something fresh. Yeah. And I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the more that we hold on to those 40 bits of information and give them credibility and attention and love, and the more that we kind of look at them,
Yeah.
the longer they stick there, right? And that's what we get to understand, is that we can know that they're there. I've had that experience overnight last night, like just crazy head telling me all kinds of crazy things, and that's okay. I know it will go. I know what's going on. I know it's just that I'm feeling that crazy thinking.
Yeah.
I know also that I don't need to do anything, because the less attention I pay that, as you say, new, fresh thinking will come through, and my experience and my feelings will completely change.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Exactly. It's like, I don't know, analogy there came when, when you're like on the beach or something, and like, I don't know, you love going into cold water.
I don't. I hate it, actually. But
yeah. or like you just stood there, and like the waves, and you don't like the waves, and they just keep coming and coming, and you hate the waves, and it's just like this, like knowing that you can just get out of the water.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you don't have to stick there and think, well, I don't like this, and I need the waves to change. I need them to stop coming. It's like, well, the waves, they're not going to. They're going to keep coming, because that's nature. That's the nature of it. And it's like that with thought. It's like thought is never going to stop, and the content of it we cannot control. I don't know what I'm going to be thinking when I come off the call to you, like something maybe helpful, something not, but I do know the nature of it now, right? And so that is helpful, because even though I fall for the illusion still as a human being, it's so less often, and it's with such much more grace and kindness to myself than I ever had before.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's like, it's seeing that you're just human, and you're suffering because there's some thinking that you've grabbed hold of that you have taken seriously.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody else was suffering, if your best friend was suffering, you'd like, you put your arm around them, you'd maybe run them a bath, you'd like, get them a cup of tea, whatever. You'd be kind to them. And so often with ourselves, we're just angry with ourselves for being caught up, or for not being how we should be, or whatever. And I just love that about my experience too, of just being more compassionate with myself.
Yeah.
When I get caught up, when I feel horrible, just having compassion for that poor little poor little body that's suffering.
Yeah, exactly. And that compassion, that kindness, means that, I find myself doing things or not, moving in a direction or not. It's like, it's not, the decision isn't up here. It's just, maybe I'll find myself, and I don't know yet, but I know it's not on me to figure this out, but maybe I'll be moved in the direction to adopt, or maybe I'll be moved in the direction to have an egg donor, right? Like, there's possibilities, or maybe maybe I won't do, maybe I don't know, but it's not this. When we're being unkind, it's like we're just so, because we think that the answer is in the busy thinking or writing the pros and cons lists and what have you, and it's It's really not. We are moved in a direction despite our best efforts up here. You know, it's seeing, it's having eyes for that. It's not on us.
Yeah, and I love what you said then about I don't know, maybe I'll adopt, maybe this will happen, maybe that'll happen. And that's so different. And that feeling that comes with that, it's so,
Possibilities. Yeah.
yeah, it's so different from the I must have a child and this is how it's got to look. It has to be mine and it has to be this way and it has to come from this, whatever. Like the
Yeah.
unknown, the kind of seeing that that's just one way.
Yeah.
And that there's so many other possibilities that we could be open to if we just sit in the unknown, in the I don't know what it's going to be like.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like taking responsibility, but actually we're not responsible, right? And from that space, we find ourselves doing things in a much more lighthearted way. Because it's all up for grabs, right? Everything is perfect, and then we put the judgment on it that it's not. It just, there's experience, and then there's all the thinking around it.
That's it, isn't it? There's the experience, there's the experience of the body, miscarrying or whatever it might be, and then there's the meaning on that. Then there's the, when you were talking about, well, that, that's I'm a failure, I'm not, my body's useless, it's not doing what it should do, and all of that. That's just, that's not the experience. That's an added on story about the experience. If we can take ourselves back to what's actually happening, what do we know to be true in this moment, in this moment, in this moment, without the story, that's where the ease and peace comes from, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Nice.
Maybe that's a good place to end.
Yeah, I just had a really lovely feeling. I was like, that's so nice. Yeah, no, thank you. It's been great chatting. Like, yeah, I mean, I think staying in this conversation for me has been brilliant. Like, and I don't necessarily mean having to look outside of myself to stay in it, but just the internally.
Yeah.
The noticing that how I'm making everything very personal and how that feels. And when I feel more expansive, it's I'm not so much focused on me and the story of like woe is me and all of that. It's yeah, and that peace of mind is it's more love, right? It's just, yeah, love that.
So Laura, if people would like to work with you, how do they find you? If you want to just tell people your details. And
Sure. So I have a website, laurawhitecoach.co.uk. So they can find me details on there and they can email me. Also, I am doing a podcast with a lovely lady called Vivian Edgecombe called Life in Colour, and it's all around life without children, which hopefully will be, it'll be released next year. So yeah, I'll probably have details of that on my website and promote it in some way. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All your coaching packages and things like that, that's all on your website, right?
So the coaching packages, so just email me actually, because I don't necessarily have set packages on there, but I like to have conversations with people and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your
no problem
your experience. It's been wonderful to hear from you, and I will catch up with you soon.
Okay. All right.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.